Hello everyone, Chris Whitten here. Glad to be back with you today. Man, I didn't think I would get this video done today, or at least I was starting to worry that I wouldn't. We've had some crazy weather the last few days. We got about 7 inches of rain back on Saturday, and we have a creek right behind the house here. It flooded, and I came all the way up to our porch and started just kind of lipping over the edge of the porch. But fortunately, even though we looked like an island in a small lake, we survived without any water getting in the house or any damage to speak of here. Anyway, today I want to do a very special video and a shout out to somebody that means a lot to me for his birthday. And that person would be Mr. Willie Nelson. You know, he turned 92 years old today. Of course, I won't have this video posted until tomorrow, so I guess technically it'd be yesterday for you folks listening. Got up this morning over a cup of coffee thinking about Willie and thinking about the things that I found meaningful about him on a personal level. And I just wanted to share a little story about him as far as a human being and a person who, I mean, we all know what an icon he is. We all know what a gift to the world of entertainment and music that he is. But not a whole lot of people have had, an opportunity to spend any time around him or see him, the very human side of him. So I just wanted to share a quick little story about him and, of course, wish him a very happy birthday and hope he has many more to come. It makes me so happy that he's still out there at 92 touring and playing music and releasing new albums. He does have a new album coming out this week. I believe it's the 77th studio album that he has released in his career. So that's pretty remarkable. He's one of a kind for sure. Anyway, without further ado, let's dive right in and let me tell you this little story. So as I've said on the video before, I believe, I went to work for Kevin Fowler. In the first 3 months or so that I worked for Kevin, I actually continued to live in Oklahoma and traveled back and forth to Austin every week so we could go on the road. And I increasingly spent more and more time in Austin. And it became very apparent rather quickly that I needed to find a place to live. I needed to move. And I was very grateful to Willie's road manager, Pootie Locke, who got me into a place out there in Spicewood or Briarcliff, where Willie's ranch and golf course and everything is. And it was just a wonderful experience getting to be on the inside of that world for a time and getting to know everyone, a lot of great people in that group, in that family. And unfortunately, many of them have passed over the last decade or so. We've lost Pootie and Lovey or Ben Dorsey, Miss Mona, Mama Locke. There were just so many people, and they were all characters. They were great to know, and I learned so much from all of them, and they all treated me like one of their kids, But in particular, I wanted to talk about my first Christmas away from home. I had been living out there for a few months at the time. I had spent Thanksgiving there at the house with Pootie at the condos behind Willie's recording studio there on the golf course. Pootie was my neighbor, and it was wonderful, man. He was a foodie before being a foodie was cool, and out on tour, he would always bring back awesome stuff. I remember that Thanksgiving, he had some crab legs that were about as long as my leg that he had brought back from Maine. And I remember we had every kind of turkey. We had baked turkey, fried turkey, barbecued turkey. They made 4 or 5 turkeys, and then it was just a great experience. Everybody was so wonderful. But at that time, Willie had his place out in Maui, and so back then he would spend Thanksgiving out on Maui with his wife and the kids, and then they would all come and spend Christmas there at the ranch there at Luck. That year, I remember we were always very busy. We toured a lot around Christmas time. Later on, as the operation got larger and we had to deal with more radius clauses and so forth, we would set aside the entire month of December just to do what we called the Deck the Dance Halls tour, to give us an opportunity to go play all the little dance halls around. And it was great because most of them were within a 3-hour radius of Austin, so we could get home quite easily, and on Saturday night we could be home and wake up in our own beds Sunday morning. And of course, I think everybody gets pretty busy around Christmas time, and it was no different for us. But that being said, that particular year, I believe, if I remember right, we did have a show on New Year's Eve as well as not New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, as well as the show the day after Christmas. So I didn't have time to come to Oklahoma for Christmas. Didn't get to see my family for the holidays, and I was pretty pretty bummed out about it, and I'll never forget, I woke up that morning, just kind of moping around the house, started watching some TV, just by myself, I was sitting there watching Christmas movies, eating Cheetos, and wondering what I was going to do with the rest of the day, I guess, feeling sorry for myself a little bit, to be quite honest. And my friend, Miss Judy Watson, called me. And Judy, she's a wonderful person. She really took me under her wing. And hi, Judy, because I know you watch these videos. And just a wonderful lady. And she called me. She, at the time, was actually Ben Dorsey's roommate. She helped kind of took care of Ben and took care of the house for him and everything. So she was down on the end of the condos. She asked me what I was doing, and well, I'm done nothing, just relaxing, And she said, "Well, you're not going to sit there by yourself all day on Christmas. Get dressed and meet me outside." So I went ahead and got dressed. We went outside, and so we got in the car. She goes, "You know where the ranch is, right?" I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Well, head on over there." So we went over the hill. Pulled into the gates there at Luck, which were open, and pulled up, and there were a lot of cars parked there. And of course, you pull in, and it's set up where there's a kind of a big awning there that they would park the bus under, and kind of some horse pens and stuff like that. And you kind of go down the hill a little ways, down the road, and you'd come into Willie's Western Town, which is Luck, Texas, as he called it. I'll never forget, because I had just a week or two before that had watched the movie The Red-Headed Stranger. And if y'all have not seen that movie, Willie actually plays an Old West preacher who comes into a small town out on the prairie and started preaching. And at one point in there, the local ruffians come up and on Sunday morning and started hollering at him and interrupting the church service. And Willie stepped out on the porch of the church and just gave them a tongue lashing like you wouldn't believe and dressed these guys down. So I had that, it was kind of fresh in my memory. And we got out. I'll never forget, it had been very rainy that winter. We'd had quite a bit of rain. It was very, very muddy out there. So as we come down into town and we're walking down the main street there of Luck, at the far end was the chapel. And that's where all the family had gathered together. And as I later found out, Willie's grandkids had done a little nativity play, and they had set up tables down one wall in there, and of course it was just covered with every kind of food you could imagine, everything you would expect, good old Southern cooking, and big old Christmas meal. So as I was walking, I don't rightly remember how or why I got separated from Judy. I think she saw somebody up there by where we parked that she knew and started talking to them, so I went ahead and headed down the hill. I'll never forget, as I was walking up, approaching the little chapel, the door opened, and Willie, just bigger than life, stepped out on the porch, and he was wearing a black ankle-length duster coat with a big kind of floppy straw hat, and very Western, very rustic looking, and he stepped out on the porch, and I was so just taken of that image, like I said, and it was just like in the movie. He stepped out there on that porch to address the guys that were heckling him during the sermon. Just like I said, bigger than life. It was, like American legend right there in front of you, and a total movie moment. And I stopped walking. I just kind of froze. And then, for a split second in my mind, I thought, oh no, is it okay that I'm here? Is he going to be mad that I'm here? This is Christmas with his family. And he looked at me and smiled, get the biggest smile, and he said, "Hey, welcome, come on in." He invited me in, walked me back in the door, and said, "All the food's over there, his plate's over there. You go ahead and make your plate, make yourself at home," and all this stuff, and was so, so gracious. And I had been around him quite a bit at that time, but nearly all the time I had spent around him was backstage at shows and concerts. Like I said, I hadn't lived there but just a few months, and they were out on the road quite a bit. And that was, I'd had people tell me that he was, even though he's a very chilled, relaxed person, that he was a little bit nervous, dealing with the crowds and everything. And I realized it in that moment, to see him, in his element, at his home, in his property, around his family. There was just a different level of relaxed, just an air of relaxation about him that was a little bit different than every other time I'd been around him or seen him. And but I will never forget what an impression that made on me. As a 20-year-old, it's my first Christmas away from home. Of course, I was pretty bummed out about it, and it just totally turned my whole day around, my whole holiday. And many times since then, nearly every time I've seen him, I've always thanked him for that, because that meant something to me, and that is a memory that I'll cherish, for the rest of my days. Just very thankful for him and for the person that he is. I have to say, I've rarely met a nicer, just more genuine, honest, humble human being in my life, and just he puts you at ease. He's very easy to talk to. He's very, just a kind man, and a very wise man too. Really, he's really great to visit with, and just talk about the secrets of the universe, But that particular time, it was really great. It was really awesome. I wish I had some pictures of that, but this was just before, cell phone cameras became a thing, and even at that, there are a lot of things in my life I wish I'd had pictures of, but, typically whenever you do this for a living and, this kind of everyday occurrences and stuff, and you're on the inside of it, you don't go around snapping pictures and being that way. It's, it's more of a family thing and a little bit different, and just a matter of respecting a man's privacy in his own home. I wouldn't want to violate that in any way or violate his trust in that way. So didn't have any pictures from that day. I don't know, somebody else may have. Some of the family probably does. But anyway, it was just a very memorable experience, and I'm very thankful for it. I'm thankful that Judy invited me that day and got me out of the house. And like I said, I'm just very grateful to Willie and to the whole Nelson family. That was really, really wonderful. And we ended up playing a little bit of music that day. I remember Freddie Powers and his wife were there, Catherine. Of course, they lived right there at the bottom of the hill from us, so they were nearby as well. But anyhow, I just wanted to share that story with you and tell you, if you've ever wondered what kind of guy Willie is, trust me, he's a really, really good guy. And he's very deserving of all the success that he has, and I'm very thankful for him as a person, and very thankful for him as a musician, as a singer, as a songwriter, all the things. Very thankful that I've had the opportunity to be around him a little bit and get to know him. He's just an amazing individual, and I certainly hope that I make many more videos celebrating his birthday over the years to come. So anyhow, I appreciate y'all listening today, and of course, thank you for all the comments and the likes and subscribes and sharing. And if you haven't, please do go down there below, subscribe, like the video, and share. And it really helps me to continue making these videos, and kind of gives me some direction as well, Also, if you need any violin or fiddle or mandolin recorded, please let me know. I'd love to lay down some tracks for you. It would make it real easy. You could send the stuff over to me, and we can work together and see what we can come up with. Hopefully we can make some magic happen. And also, if you're interested in violin or fiddle lessons, please let me know. We can do those remotely and work around your schedule and make it real simple. So I hope everybody stays safe, stays dry, keep an eye on the weather, and have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and keep on picking.